All right. Here we go, guys and gals. And boogity, boogity, boogity. Let's go racing, drivers.
And we're live for the Loose Wheel Show, Season 2, Episode 47. Andrew Hazel alongside Ethan Ignatovsky here.
What's up, everyone?
Taking you through the next 50 minutes or so. How about that?
And now for last week's race reviews.
Ethan, Las Vegas happened. Talk about it to the people of the world.
Gonna talk about it to you too, Andrew?
Yeah, I did not watch.
Yeah, I told you should watch.
I said I'm not staying up till 12 at night.
Well, the race started before the race started. That's poetry right there. Franco Colapinto was starting from the pits after he absolutely destroyed his car in qualifying. So the mechanics had to repair that. Under Parc Ferme, penalty for that is starting in the pit lane. It was a 50G crash. It was just a big incident. George Russell was on pole. What was really crazy about qualifying is Pierre Gasly in that Alpine was P3. The track at the end of qualifying just ramped up super quickly, so you saw a lot of fast times at the end. Pierre Gasly, obviously one of those, putting that car in a spot where it's not supposed to be, really. So, lap 1 of the race, George Russell held the lead into turn 1. Carlos Sainz went up the track to cover Gasly. I'm not really sure why he did that. I'm not sure why he was scared of Pierre Gasly, but that allowed Charles Leclerc to jump through from 4th to 2nd place. Nico Hülkenberg was able to get past Oscar Piastri in the early running as well. And then on lap 4, Verstappen jumped into 4th, passing Pierre Gasly. During this time, Leclerc was giving Russell a good fight for first place. It was a really good battle, but Russell managed to stay ahead in the end. And then Leclerc started to fall off. On lap 7, he was passed by Carlos Sainz, and the man replacing him next year, Lewis Hamilton, made a move as well that lap on Oscar Piastri. However, Piastri was able to get that place back. Next lap, Verstappen passed Leclerc on the straight for 3rd, and Lando Norris also made a move, passing Pierre Gasly for 5th, who would not have a great race for much longer, through no fault of his own, really. Lewis Hamilton on lap 9 made his way past Piastri again and got past Yuki Tsunoda for 7th on the straights. Leclerc pit at the end of the lap, which started the first set of pit stops. It was a 2-stop race with that track just going through tires. Just something about the cold Las Vegas streets going through tires. Lance Stroll also came into the pits on lap 9. And Andrew, you're probably thinking, Ethan, why are you talking about Lance Stroll? Well, it was kind of funny because there wasn't anyone there. His radio wasn't working the entire race.
Yeah, I did see that.
So he just came in on lap 9, and there was just no one there. So he had to go around again. I mean, that's kind of a difficult situation. Like, I don't know what you're supposed to do. If you can't communicate with them, how do you let them know when you want to have a pit stop? So, I don't know. But there was a lot of crazy stuff. But yeah, Andrew, you could say that he didn't have communication with his engineer. Esteban Ocon also had some pit stop issues. When he came into the pits, there was no one holding out like the board, like letting them know where to like stop and all that. So he just drove past the pit stall. Like, there was no one out there. There was no one with the board or anything. So he also had to go around. There was just a lot of weird pit stops today. We'll talk about a third weird pit stop later on. But Max Verstappen got past Sainz for 2nd place. Verstappen looked really, really quick in this early stage of the race. More drivers, again, through this, like, teens laps of the race would pit. Field would start to get settled down a little bit. And then on lap 16, Gasly's engine died and he had to retire. Also on lap 16, Lewis Hamilton went late in on the brakes after the long straightaway and managed to pass Lando Norris down the inside, taking a 10-lap jump to lap 26. We have some serious Ferrari drama. So, Carlos Sainz's tires were starting to fade, and the team asked him to basically let Charles through because Charles was faster. His tires weren't falling away just yet, and it was just a messy situation. Leclerc wanted to get past Sainz right away, but Sainz didn't let him pass for 2 laps, and by then, Hamilton was right on the rear of Leclerc, who was right on the rear of Sainz, and Hamilton almost got a move off on Charles, but not quite. Sainz somehow let Leclerc through while staying in front of Hamilton, and during this entire sequence, Sainz was telling the team that he wanted to come into pit. So, on lap 28, I believe it was, Sainz let Hamilton into the pits, but at the very last minute, Sainz bailed out. The team was telling him, stay out, stay out, stay out, even though he was already entering the pits. I have no idea how he didn't get a penalty for that. Apparently, it was just a track limits violation. Hamilton pit anyway, but the team wasn't ready for Sainz. All these teams today, I don't know if it was because it was late or what, but these teams were sloppy, Andrew. And for Ferrari specifically, it was like a Binotto era just fumble of an incident. How does Ferrari always manage to do this, Andrew?
I don't know, but my question is, Ethan, with all these teams being sloppy, I guess you could call them sloppy Joes.
All right, you did say that. That's interesting. On lap 32, Hamilton passed Max, who no longer had the pace of earlier in the race, and he passed Leclerc as well. Who I want to mention, Charles still has a decent shot at second in the championship, and especially entering Vegas, he had a decent shot. I mean, he closed the gap, so more so even now, but it was still seen entering Vegas that he had a decent shot, and he still does have a decent shot. You'll see why that's important in a second. But Leclerc came into pit again on lap 32 and was told by the team that Carlos wouldn't put pressure on him to get past him. But Sainz, on warmed-up tires, made an easy pass on Leclerc and went on to go try and attack down the road. I don't know if I mentioned it, but because Hamilton pit earlier, he got a massive undercut on Sainz and was ahead of both Leclerc and Sainz. Some people might disagree with me on this, but in my opinion, even though the team told Carlos no and he disobeyed team orders, it was the right move for the team because he was faster at that moment because he had already warmed up his tires. And in the context that Charles is staying for future seasons and Sainz is leaving after the seasons, it isn't the right move, but Carlos doesn't care about that at all. He wants the podium, right? And it's also better for the team, I feel because he had a better chance of making it as far up as possible. But also then you have Charles, who he's fighting for second in the championship, and the way that it turned out, it didn't really matter if Carlos let Charles stay ahead. They still finished back-to-back. So there's a few different ways of looking at it. I think in the moment it was the right move, but maybe at the end of the race, Carlos should have gave the position back to Charles, but why does Carlos care? He doesn't at all, and he shouldn't care. Yeah. So that's that.
Ferrari said, go away, and Carlos has said, no. If you tell me to go away, I'm doing things my way.
Yeah,
I've got the power, you don't.
Pretty much, yeah. And then lap 38, race winding down, 12 laps to go at this point. Perez, Magnussen, and Liam Lawson did their best NASCAR impression, Andrew. They went 3 wide into turn 14, which is at the end of one of the straights. Resulted in Perez jumping Magnussen and Lawson for 12th. It was honestly a really great move. Nice to see that Sergio Perez still has things like that in his bag. Couple laps later, lap 41, Sainz, who was about half a second ahead of Leclerc at this point, got past Verstappen for 3rd. A few laps later, lap 47, Leclerc got past Verstappen for 4th. And then lap 50, final lap of the race, George Russell comes home to win the race. He honestly sounded like 10 times happier and more excited to win the race than Max sounded winning the championship, which I thought was pretty funny. Like, George was, like, waving his arms, coming around the last corners and, like, screaming into the radio and, like, saying, like, they're gonna party all night in Vegas. And then Max is like, yeah, awesome season, guys. Thanks for the championship.
It's Max's 4th championship, and correct me if I'm wrong, Russell's 3rd race?
3rd win, yeah.
Win, yeah. So, put that into perspective.
Sure, but still, you can't tell me it's not funny to see a driver celebrating a race win more than a driver celebrating a championship. But yeah, post-race, Leclerc was absolutely pissed. And I mean, he has every right to be. He should be pissed. Like, neither driver is like, I guess Carlos is, like, technically in the wrong, but, like, neither driver is, like, really in the wrong, you know what I mean? Like, Ferrari created the incident by not being able to pit Sainz when they were supposed to. So, yeah. Russell, Hamilton, Sainz, Leclerc, Verstappen, Norris, Piastri, Hülkenberg, Tsunoda, and Perez, your top 10. Max Verstappen, officially a 4-time champion, 4th in a row. I put on our Twitter, which you should go follow at TLW Show. Verstappen has absolutely dominated early in the season, and even after he no longer had the fastest car or a teammate who could help him, he showed just how good he is. I mean, seriously, like, it never looked like there was a moment where the championship wasn't his. Maybe a split second. But just throughout the season, he controlled it, even when he wasn't the fastest, even when he didn't have anyone to help him. He controlled the championship, and he won with 2 races left to go. He is seriously one of the greatest of all time. The greatest of this. I mean, you can't even really call it the new generation anymore because it's been around. But, like, the new current generation, whatever you want to call it. The post. Schumacher handed the torch. There was kind of a gap, but Schumacher essentially handed the torch to Hamilton. It's now been passed to Verstappen. It's already been passed to Verstappen, but no one's going to be able to take it from Verstappen, even if other drivers win the championship. This is still Verstappen's era until he retires.
I agree.
And we'll talk about this more later, but I want to touch on it briefly now. Like, I think that retirement could come sooner rather than later. Like, he's still hungry to go and win another championship and all that, but he's also said that he doesn't want to be racing a super long time. Like, he could probably end up having the most championships of any Formula 1 driver, considering his age and how many he's already won. But that just doesn't interest him. He wants to win a couple more, maybe, and then leave F1. He's said so many times, there's so many quotes out there about him just wanting to go spend time with his family. And I mean, like, respect. He's dominated, and it's not time to go home just yet, but soon it could be.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if I had to put a grade or a ranking on the race as we normally do, I think it was a pretty good race. Not the best, not the worst. There was a lot of action, though, and there was some drama, so 6.75 or something like that. Maybe a solid 7. Hard to say exactly. It was a good race. I enjoyed watching it. It wasn't the best. Definitely far from the worst.
Yeah. Into the news.
Yeah.
And now for the news.
Let's. Do you want to start with our 11th Formula 1 team? Because that's the biggest news story.
Yeah, that is the biggest news. Cadillac to enter F1.
Yeah.
In 2026.
So.
And I'm gonna say Cadillac, putting air quotes around that.
Well.
Because It's basically the old Andretti Global Cadillac entry.
I have... Let me explain. I have compiled some stuff to explain it as best as possible. Feel free to jump in whenever.
I'll jump in after.
Okay. This is huge. There is a lot of news. Almost all of the information that you're going to hear me say is from the race, so shout out to them. But yes, there is going to be an 11th Formula One team. I'm very happy about that. But what's the deal? What are the details? Well, the team will be branded as Cadillac, owned and backed by General Motors, of course, and it will be in partnership with TWG Global. More on them later. So, like I said, it will be branded as Cadillac and will essentially operate as General Motors' factory team. Formula One was searching for a factory team to join the sport. They got it. And like Andrew said, this is essentially an evolution of the Andretti Cadillac proposal. This is the next step of that. The final form, if you will. The Andretti Cadillac was a first stage Pokemon, and this is the final stage. I don't know if that analogy made sense. I don't know anything about Pokemon.
Neither do I,
Okay.
so you might be an idiot.
I hope it made sense.
Keyword is might.
And like you said, they will join the grid in 2026. They are expected to start running their own engines in 2028. So until then, they will be a customer team. In the original proposal, the team was essentially always going to be a customer team, a Renault customer team in specific. Now Renault isn't even going to be producing F1 engines. And it seems like Ferrari is going to be the team that will supply the Cadillac entry, the General Motors entry for the first 2 years, although that is far from official. And if they don't bring their engine by 2028, they could, of course, supply them until the engine is ready. If not Ferrari, or if they can't strike a deal with another team, they wouldn't be engineless, Andrew. I don't know if you know this, but the FIA would force Honda to supply engines to the team since every team needs an engine manufacturer.
Yeah,
and engines are important for cars.
Yeah,
as most people know. The reason it would be Honda, though, is because they would have the lowest amount of teams that they're supplying while also not being Audi. Because Audi would also only supply one team itself, and Honda would only be supplying Aston Martin. But since Audi will be a new engine, they're not going to force Audi to supply another team. It would be Honda, the already established engine manufacturer, which makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's why Audi gets a pass. So, who is TWG Global? TWG Global is the company that owns and operates Andretti Global and is partnering with General Motors to bring the car to the grid, essentially acting as a specialist organization running the car just under the branding of Cadillac. So this essentially, it's not too dissimilar to how Mercedes only controls a fraction of the team, of the F1 team, and then the rest of the Mercedes F1 team pie is owned by the Ineos brand, who is the main sponsorship for the team, and then also Toto Wolff owns 33% as well. So not too dissimilar to that, and this is something that General Motors and Cadillac have already done. In IMSA, Cadillac built its sports cars alongside Dallara, and then Chip Ganassi Racing ran the team, essentially.
That's going to be Meyer Shank in 24. And
yeah,
also,
that partnership is no longer together. They went their separate ways, but it's going to be similar to that, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Dan Tauris is essentially the new Michael Andretti. He's the CEO of TWG Global's motorsports arm, as Formula One put it, because Formula One didn't want to mention Andretti Global, but TWG's motorsport arm is Andretti Global. So we know that Michael Andretti stepped down. Dan Tauris is the guy that essentially filled the void. And the team is going to utilize the bases that Andretti Global built, and the Andretti Global employees that were hired for the original F1 project all that good stuff. So the big names and the big achievements that Andretti Global's Formula One effort has produced and have hired, they're going to be essentially taken over by TWG Global. That includes the base in the US, that includes the base in the UK, all that stuff. All of that is now TWG Global.
Interesting note that came out from the TWG Global. TWG Global also operates / owns / whatever the sports car team Wayne Taylor Racing, which we already knew was merged with Andretti, and Spire Motorsports, Ethan.
I didn't know that.
Which this is new news, but it had been long speculated that Andretti had been working with Spire in some way. Now we know it's official, is that you see those Gamebridge cars, those Delaware Life cars on their on the Spire cars, and now we know it's official that Andretti and Spire are working together with the TWG Global. And I will mention Dan Taurus, I think is his name.
Taurus.
He is the guy who is behind Gamebridge Group 1001 and Delaware Life, which they've been on those Andretti car or the Spire
Gamebridge
cars.
has been Colton Hertz's main sponsor.
Yeah.
So
and
more
in
on
NASCAR
Colton Hertz
too.
later. And then also interrupting your 11th Formula One team update,
Oh, boy.
Andrew, with
What?
breaking news. According to Mr. Keenan Vaughn himself, quote, "You guys are good to go. Hour 30 show potentially. Or at least we're not confined to our normal time limits."
Yeah.
So, back to the news.
Awesome. Thanks, Keenan.
Back to the news. You're probably wondering, Andrew, you probably already know, but to anyone else, you're probably wondering, how are the Andrettis involved in this? Well, Michael Andretti, not involved at all. Remember, he stepped down as the head of Andretti Global, and that...
He's still involved with it.
He's still involved, but it's a much more limited role. He's no longer running the ship. He's no longer the captain. His involvement, especially in the Formula One side, is going to be much less than it originally was going to be. And he probably knew that that's what he was going to have to do to get the team into Formula One. I can't say that for sure by any means at all, but I wouldn't be surprised, I'll put it that way. You know, he's probably aware of his reputation in the Formula One world, Andrew. You know, like, he's been brash, he's been confrontational, he's caused issues in the eyes of people whose opinions matter in the Formula One world. You might see that as unfair, other people might see that as unfair, but in the opinions of people who matter, he's not exactly seen in the best light, and I'm sure he's aware of that. His father, Mario Andretti, Formula One champion, he's essentially going to be an advisor to the team as well as act as a director on the board. He put out a tweet that says, quote, "I feel very lucky that I've been able to stick around for this long and do what I love for so long, and the idea of the Cadillac F1 team, and the idea that the Cadillac F1 team wants me around, I'll help where I can, a non-executive role with the team, not involved in day-to-day operations because I don't want a job," smiley face emoji.
I don't blame him.
Offering advice, inspiration, friendship anywhere I can. I am beyond fortunate. So he says a non-executive role, but he was also announced as a director on the board. So I don't know exactly what that means. I guess we'll find out as time goes on. There's some other interesting info here, Andrew. A couple of interesting nuggets of information. Firstly, and I think, well, this kind of leads into the second point, and I think the second point is the most interesting, but Andretti has been using Toyota's Cologne, Germany wind tunnel and has even completed and passed some crash testing, which is big news. But this second part of that I'm about to tell you, I think this is one of, if not the most interesting things so far. And it essentially, since the team is not yet an official entrant, it can basically do whatever it wants. Unlimited time in the wind tunnel, unlimited aero time, unlimited CFD time, all of that. They've been able to test the 2026 aero package, and current teams aren't allowed to do that until New Year's Day. They have a huge jump over all the other teams and all that stuff. How does that balance with the fact that they're a new team? You know what I mean? The inexperience, all that. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be just super interesting to see how that impacts the team once they get on the grid, and also when they'll have to start following like the restrictions that other F1 teams are confined to, because it's going to be extra weird because like CFD time and aero time and all that stuff is determined based on where you finish in the championship. They haven't finished in the championship before because they're not a member of the championship yet. So how is all that going to be determined? Are they just going to be able to have unlimited testing time for the entire 2025 season up until 2026? Like, that would be crazy. We'll just have to see. Switching gears a little bit, we talked about Michael Andretti stepping down. The Liberty Media CEO stepping down seems to have made a major impact quickly. I wasn't so sure if it would. I said as much on the show, that I wasn't so sure if that was going to have an impact on this team joining F1, because I assumed he would most likely be replaced by someone that thought similarly. But then again, this is a evolution, a new version of the plan to join Formula One. So maybe if he was still around, this version would have gotten accepted anyway. There's also the legal stuff with the U.S. government looking into Liberty Media and all that. I think that story's just dead now, that since the team has been approved into Formula One. And I don't think that's why the team got approved to join Formula One, because if it was pressure from the U.S. government, then it would have been the original version of the team, the Andretti Cadillac proposal, not this new proposal. So I think it's just a non-story anymore. It doesn't matter anymore. It did matter, but now it doesn't. And then the final little thing I have on this little hit sheet right here is I called this way too early speculation on drivers. Now, of course, the team is going to want at least one American driver in the car. Herta to Formula One rumors have died down, but of course that was before there was this Andretti Global, essentially what it is, seat. He would still have to secure a super license, but as long as he finishes 4th or higher in IndyCar next year, I believe that should secure him a super license. So there's some extra motivation for you, Colton Herta. Not that you're listening.
He finished 2nd in the championship last year, and I believe that gets him enough super license points.
He still needs more. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he has to finish 4th or higher. And then you got someone like Jack Crawford, who the race mentioned as well. He has ties to Andretti's Formula E team. He's essentially an extra driver over there, reserve driver, test driver, whatever you want to call it. He's currently in his 2nd season of F2. He's currently 5th. He's a pretty solid driver. But really, it could be a mix of anyone, Andrew. Young, old, American, non-American, Franco Colapinto, Felipe Drugovich, Isaac Hadjar, maybe Yuki Tsunoda or Liam Lawson leave the Red Bull family, jump over there, Zane Maloney, Sergio Perez, Alex Palou, Daniel Ricciardo. Like, I don't know. I could list random names forever, man, but right now we just don't know.
Yeah.
So, essentially, all of this to say, I'm super happy. Now you know the details, but I'm super happy. I think it's unfortunate. It's definitely somewhat unfortunate that the Andretti name isn't front and center, but I'm super happy for the people that worked at Andretti Global that are still a part of this project. and that a project started by Michael Andretti is now on the Formula One grid. This Cadillac General Motors backed team is not on the grid without all the footwork, the legwork done by Michael Andretti, you know?
Right.
That's just no shot at all that without Andretti, this team is on the grid right now. So it truly would have been wonderful if it was branded as Andretti Cadillac, but, you know, beggars can't be choosers. So I'm just glad we have an 11th team on the grid. It makes stuff so much more interesting. You know, you have more opportunities for drivers, more opportunities for craziness and everything, really. Just, there's more opportunity. And I think everyone's a winner except for Michael Andretti himself, honestly. F1 Works team on the grid makes Formula One happy, and I think everyone else's benefits are pretty obvious, and it's just exciting to see an American entry that could become a true competitor. I like Haas. I like what they're doing over there. I like what Ao Komatsu is building, but this, you know.
Yeah, he's doing the, what, I don't know what, he did.
The very nice.
The very nice.
I don't know.
F1, FOM, Liberty Media, that whole group. I know I don't give this award, this is Ethan's award, but they get the Lance Stroll Excellence Award of the week.
Oh, the Sir Lancelot Medal for Excellency or whatever I called it?
Yes.
So are you not happy? Because that's a...
I'm happy and I'm not happy. First of all, F1 in 2021 or 2022, Andretti was going to buy Sauber.
Yeah.
Someone in the F1 paddock said, no, his name might be a band who sang a song called Africa followed by an animal. If you can't figure out who I'm saying, it's Toto Wolff. Then Andretti, realistically, that should have not been blocked by F1.
Mm-hmm.
Michael Andretti's bids to go in as a private team, that shouldn't have been blocked by F1. Michael Andretti's bids with Cadillac, that shouldn't have been blocked by F1. So Michael Andretti does invest in Zapata, which he loses money in, which might be part of the reason why he's backing out as owner, because that was a big loss for him. So good job, Formula One. You got what I wanted, but at what cost? I do like more cars on the grid. I do like it. But you made a mockery of yourself in so many ways to get there. You got what you won the national, you got what you want, but you shot yourself in the foot in the process, and you didn't need to do that. You had an easy catch.
I honestly
and you
don't
didn't,
think
and you
it
dropped the
matters
ball.
anymore. I don't think they dropped the ball or anything. They made up, if anything, they made up for past errors. I don't think this is a at what cost situation by any means. I mean, like I said, it would have been really cool to see the Andretti name front and center, but I don't think that this is a at what cost situation. Andretti is still involved through its essentially parent company, and it's going to be stronger than what that Sauber acquisition would have been. This is the strongest form that we've seen so far. This is a proposal that could actually do something in Formula One. I mean, you have General Motors, the biggest auto manufacturer in America, completely on board, backing the team, bringing another engine eventually to the Formula One grid. I don't think that this is what you're... In my opinion, I don't share the same opinion as you.
Okay, then if you go back to the last proposal where Andretti still was leading it, with the General Motors backing of the same thing that we have now.
It's not, though. General Motors...
Is it really?
Yes. It wasn't as involved. It was going to be a customer Renault team. You can't tell me that...
It was going to be a customer Renault team for 2 years, and then the plan was to build their own engine. That's what the plan was.
I don't know, man. Like, General Motors is still more involved now than they were before. This is a General Motors factory team, whereas before, the last proposal, it wasn't. That's a big difference.
It's in name only. It doesn't...
It's not, though.
I see it as more Andretti. Based off of what I've seen. And what I've seen could be wrong.
TWG Global, Andretti Global, whatever you want to call it, is going to be running the car. It's going to be... Everything's going to be out of their base and all that. But I think that now General Motors... They're putting themselves out there more, which means they're going to contribute more.
I'll believe it when I see it.
Fair enough.
Because I'm skeptical. I still think F1.
And even if it was, which I think you're right, I think I was wrong on that, they were going to run their own engines after a few years with the Renault thing. Even still, Ferrari, even just for 2 years, Ferrari Cadillac sounds a lot more interesting than Renault Cadillac. That's a very minor detail, but I just want to throw it out there.
But at the end of the day, the way F1 handled this to get to this point, if you be stubborn about it, like if Andretti winds up buying Sauber,
mm-hmm.
I probably care a lot more about F1 than I will in 2026, because for me, the way F1 has handled it, say, oh no, you can't run, but just the way they've ran the way they've processed this team, it's been so much of a pain and it's been so much of a bear for this Andretti / Cadillac to get into F1. It just doesn't excite me. Like, I'm not excited by this news.
I don't know how you can say that, because honestly, if we're playing with hypotheticals here, but I would say that if Andretti bought that Sauber team, that's a back of the midfield to just straight up back marker team.
Right.
Now, with so much more, even if you want to ignore the General Motors influence, even if you want to ignore that, fine. You want to say they're not even going to have that much influence. Let's look at what's purely Andretti Global. You have a huge new facility in the UK. You have your new facility in the States as well.
That new facility in the States is always going to be built.
Sure, but would it have been ready by the time they were going to buy Sauber?
I don't know.
Now, both facilities are finished. Andretti has the lowest amount of employees right now, of course. So the one thing that they would have gained from buying another team is those employees. But it could have been hard to convince those employees to stay.
Right.
Now, you just need to get you need to get new people to buy in, which some could argue is easier, some could argue it's harder. I think the main difference, though, the biggest difference in favor of this current proposal over buying that team, buying Sauber, is you have the facilities now to support a Formula 1 team. Like, yeah, I guess you would have taken over Sauber's facility, but now you get to do it. You did it your way. You did it the way you wanted to do it. Like, is that not more rewarding?
You're right, but I think you've misunderstood me. It's not the excitement for... Yeah, I guess it is the excitement. Like, if like, just the... Like, I'm not excited. Like, I'm not compelled to go watch F1 now that Andretti's in it. I'm just not.
I don't think you would have been if they bought Sauber.
I think I would have been, because it's something new. This
is literally more so something new.
But the process, Ethan, the process of
that doesn't matter that much anymore.
It does to me.
Okay.
It might not matter to you.
It doesn't matter to me, honestly.
It might not matter to everyone in the world, but for me, if F1 doesn't put up so many walls, I'd be buying in more. It's like, if you're trying to walk, Ethan, okay, and there's a wall in the way with no door.
Okay.
That makes it harder to get to where you're going. And that's what F1 has done for me. I want to like F1. Believe it or not, Ethan. I want to like F1.
I don't... I understand for you, and I hear you. And I genuinely... I think... I understand what you're saying. I disagree with what you're saying, but I understand what you're saying. And I understand that for you, it's a big deal. I respect that. I don't think that is a factor for the majority of people. You're on the doorstep of F1, I think it's fair to say, as like a elevated fan, hardcore fan if you want to call it. I think everyone else that is on that doorstep, or at least most people, don't care. I think this is going to... F1 is already growing in America, and I just think this is going to make F1 grow more. You know, everyone... If you're an American motorsports fan that doesn't watch F1, I think this gets you excited. I think it does. Maybe not all of them, because some people I'm sure have the same mindset as you. But I think you might be in the minority on this one.
I very well might be, but for me, this is I've thought of a better analogy. It's like you DoorDash some food to get to your apartment tonight. It just, for whatever reason, it doesn't come when it's expected to. So you go out and go to the restaurant that's next door and just get some food to go. Okay? And you eat that food. And then 2 hours later, the food that you DoorDashed comes. You don't want that food anymore.
That's a crazy analogy.
Like, that's kind of what it's like for me. It's like...
Okay. I don't even have a response for that.
Yeah, this would have been better 2 years ago. Whatever. But
I don't know. I think this is perfect timing as well, because it's the new regulations are going to set in and all that. I don't know. I understand we have a difference of opinion here. We're not going to change each other's minds, but this is two schools of thought on this. I think I was expecting you to be upset, but in a different way.
What do you mean?
I was expecting you to be more upset, not about the process of how we got here, but just of the fact that it's not an Andretti team, or not branded as an Andretti team, I should say.
That makes me mad too, but if... I'm mad about that too, but the process is why we got to where we are. So, I guess that kind of led to the other. I think it's time to move to the next piece of news.
Let's do it. Umkos Hollinger signing Stingray Rob for the 2025 IndyCar season.
His name is Stingray Rob.
Yeah.
His actual name is Stingray.
Yeah, that's what his parents named him. When he was born, and the doctor, whoever it is, that's like, oh, what are you going to name your kid? His parents said, Stingray. Not one word, two. Sting, S-T-I-N-G, space, Ray.
They spelled like the
R-A-Y.
animal, but they named him after the car. So,
but as two words.
Yes. So, at the end of the day, Ethan.
Yeah.
They shouldn't have named him Stingray Rob. After seeing his speed for 2 years now, I do like Stingray Rob. He's more like
I like him too.
Turtle Rob. Not very fast. But he does bring a lot of money, and Juncos, they need a lot of money. It's a good match for him. He isn't a good driver by any means. There's plenty of drivers that
we talked about
should
this
be
a
in
week
that
ago.
seat. And I will say, I would like to see, hopefully he brings enough budget so Juncos can say, okay, who is the best driver that we want to put in? Whether that be Roman Grosjean, Rinus VK, Linus Lundqvist, whoever.
Théo
Pourchaire. Whoever. Like I said. They should be able to say, okay, we want that guy. Whoever that guy is.
Do we want to make a quick prediction?
Hopefully we can get to that later in the show with the full IndyCar silly season. And quickly, the IndyCar test from Thermal last week. The order was Nazar, McElrea, Sargent, Foster, Fittipaldi, and Sowery.
Yeah, that got clarified in between. Because, again, tire testing, unofficial times, it's not like the times do matter, but it's not like... It's not a huge deal, essentially.
Sargent, I believe, did lead one of the sessions.
Yeah. So this is the overall.
Yeah, the overall.
Yeah.
Moving over to NASCAR, 2311 confirms third NASCAR Cup Series entry for Riley Herbst.
Mm-hmm.
Terrible Herbst money rolling in from Terribles. So that's interesting.
Do you think he's deserving of the spot?
Not yet. He needs another year.
Okay, so are we back on the Riley Herbst hater train for you?
No. Well, he can prove me wrong. I think it's possible that he does, but I think he'll be slower than Wallace and Reddick, his two teammates.
I think that's fair to say.
How much slower? That will be the question of, this guy stinks and he shouldn't be here, or maybe he can develop into something.
There's something there, maybe. Okay.
I think whether those, I don't think he'll be developing much because I think he's fairly old. I think he's like 24.
26?
No, he's not 26.
He's not that old.
I think he's 24. If 25, gonna turn 26 in February.
Oh, I was closer than you.
So, yeah, that's a little old. And coming from a guy who wasn't at the top of his game in his series, could be better.
I was expecting him to stay in Xfinity for another year, truly.
Hayek Motorsports.
Did we ever get clarification on that?
That is how it's pronounced.
Okay.
I did Google. They didn't want Kroger to return as a sponsor. And Kroger, they are technically a full season sponsor. Like, you're probably wondering, Andrew, why didn't they want him to return? Well,
I am wondering that, actually, yes.
Well, with Kroger cars, it's business to business. You see different brands on the side of the car week to week. Normal business to business deals say, okay, if I'm Kroger, okay, Reese's, okay, Crest, okay, name me another brand real quick that you might find in a Kroger. Mac and cheese, Kraft mac and cheese. Okay, you pay us to be on the car. And then we pay Hayek.
Mm-hmm.
What Kroger is doing is saying, okay, we pay the money for our stuff, Now you got to go find.
Oh, you have to find.
Hayek has to find those sponsors.
Okay.
And the former owners, Jody and Tad Geschechter, they had a marketing company which did find these sponsors. But with them gone, why try to find the sponsors?
Okay, that makes sense.
That makes it harder. That's an interesting bit of news. Not conventional news, but still interesting. Makes you think. Makes get those gears to turn. Moving over to the truck series, Daniel Hemrick, current Cup driver, moves to McAnally Hilgeman Racing in the number 19 truck 2025. I don't think he'll contend for the championship like the current driver was, Christian Eckes, but I think he'll be a solid driver. He can compete for wins. Will be very consistent. I wouldn't be surprised if he has the most top 10s next year.
You just confirmed he's winning the championship, by the way. Like he's going to win the championship now. Because you said he's not.
Well, also Frankie Muniz isn't winning the championship.
Why is Malcolm in the Middle star Frankie Muniz catching a stray?
His car he's going to be in arguably the worst truck team that's fielding full-time trucks. Arguably. I don't know. But the point of the matter is, going back to Hemrick, is he's generally not a guy who gets wins, but he can be solid.
Consistent, solid performance.
Consistent, nothing special, nothing makes you say, oh, this guy's great.
Now here's a guy.
Oh boy. Anyway, now here's a news story. NASCAR running new layout COTA next year. They're cutting. They're going to do what the supercars did back in when they ran there. They cut off a few of the more S turns and the big straightaway. Couple of big passing zones. I don't love it. It was to shorten the cautions, which that will help, but we'll see. I'm pessimistic, but cautiously pessimistic. It could be good, but it's probably not going to be.
It gets rid of two major passing zones.
Right.
Which, maybe, because, maybe it really, it's a net negative of one, because maybe a new passing zone is created by the new layout. But just why? I don't know. I feel like it takes away some excitement for me, personally, that they're not racing on the full circuit. I'm kind of the opposite of you, and that's kind of why this show kind of works. I'm a big F1 fan, and I like NASCAR, but I don't live and breathe it. And you're the opposite of me. COTA is a race that I watch because I'm interested in the track and all that. I probably still watch on this new layout. I'm not going out of my way for it. Whereas if they're on the regular layout, I would, because I think it's interesting enough.
Fair.
Now, is NASCAR going to be crying tears because I'm not going to be watching this race? Maybe? No, not at all.
They're not, because they think you're a bot, Ethan.
That's a story for another time, probably. Or you could.
That's a story for off air. We're going to shift into other news, as now we don't talk about sports cars anymore, but we're going to talk about, because Robert Wickens, the former IndyCar driver, looked to be a promising, maybe future champion of the sport. He had a crash where that paralyzed him. Absolutely awful. He has since moved over to sports car racing, raced with hand gas pedal and brake pedal, hand controls, in the IMSA feeder series, which is awesome. He's won races, which is awesome. And now he's going back, or moving up to IMSA, to race in the Michelin Endurance Cup with DXDT, which is awesome.
It's huge. It's
awesome.
a really cool story. the comeback, to even make it this far back, like, it doesn't even matter what he does. Like, it's already such an amazing story. I don't know anything about this team, but if he's in a car where he has chances to win races, once he gets that first win, it's gonna be special.
It's a new team.
Okay.
In terms of IMSA competition, they've been around in other stuff, but yeah, I know as technically a media person, you're not supposed to have favorites.
This is a guy that everyone's gonna root.
This is a guy I'm rooting for. I want to see him win. After what he's been through, he deserves the world. It couldn't have happened to a nicer guy, man. Yeah, one of the biggest IndyCar what-ifs is what if Robert Wickens wasn't involved in that Pocono crash? Because who knows, maybe Arrow McLaren has championships with Wickens.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Hard to say.
Hard to say.
And now for next week's race previews.
Moving into Qatar previews, Ethan.
Yeah.
What's the race going to look like?
It's going to be the hottest. Maybe Singapore is hotter, but it's going to be one of the hottest races of the year, probably. I don't know what the temperature exactly is going to be. Yes.
I don't know if you're going to plan to talk about it, but in F2, Zane Maloney is not scheduled to race.
He's not?
According to the Wikipedia article, they don't have him racing this race.
What? I was not planning on talking about that. That's news to me.
Yeah, so I don't know if you knew anything about it. Anyway, you continue. I'll figure this out.
You look into that. Okay, so it's interesting. Teams have planned for Qatar. You have Mercedes.
I found my answer. He will depart his team ahead of the final round as he graduates to Formula E.
Okay, I didn't know that. Zane Maloney to Formula E. Congratulations to him.
So there you go.
I think I did know that and I forgot it.
I think I did too, and I forgot it.
Okay.
Yikes.
So, Mercedes, the package that they had last week in Vegas, they didn't expect to be good in Vegas, really. That package is for Qatar. Because Mercedes is a team that, they did good in Vegas. They do well in the cold.
Right.
This is a complete opposite. And, Ferrari, how are they going to perform? I'm not sure. Red Bull, I don't know. The only team that I feel confident in saying is going to be good is McLaren. And I'm not saying the McLaren's going to be the best, because Ferrari could be faster, Mercedes could be faster. We don't know right now. But the reason I feel confident in saying McLaren's going to be good is because even last year, when they still had a good car, but not as good as it is now, or I guess late last year, McLaren, maybe you could argue that it was better than right now. I don't know. McLaren was really good. Or not, last time they raced at Qatar. think they're going to be good.
He's doing the sign again.
Yeah. I think that they are going to be a quick team. And I don't know. Why are you stealing my phone, bud?
I'm taking a picture. Go ahead,
Okay,
keep talking,
okay.
Ethan.
Well, McLaren got a double podium there last year. So I think they'll be quick again. Yeah, that's that. It's going to be, again, I would assume a very hot race. I don't know the temperature, but I assume let's get a quick temperature check.
What's the weather?
What's
with
the weather?
Ethan Ignatowski.
What's the weather?
The
in
local
Lusail,
weatherman.
Qatar.
Send those pictures to me when you're done
Will do.
when we're done with the episode. Because I'm using my phone to do voice memos because the recording machine in the studio is not recording.
On Sunday evening, it's only going to be around 70 degrees, but
That's not bad.
with 65% humidity.
That's not bad. What's it gonna feel like? Do you know, or do I need to do a quick Google search?
Let's see. Yeah, you search for the real feel.
Okay. Keep talking.
Yeah, I don't have anything else to talk about. That's the end of my guitar preview. We'll see. Like this track, I don't know. It's a meh. I expect it to be a meh, I should say. A meh race. And then after that, Abu Dhabi to round out the season. I guess one storyline going into Qatar is the second place in the World Drivers' Championship, Lando Norris and Charles Leclerc, which also ties into the Constructors' Championship because Ferrari and McLaren are going against each other. Super important for each of those teams to have a really good race, and they're going to want their opponent to have a really bad race, of course. That makes sense logically, because there's no more time. Back against the wall right now for these teams. Do we want to talk IndyCar silly season?
Let's get into pick points first.
Okay.
And then we can get into... Yeah.
So...
And now, for next week's race picks.
Impressively, Morgan, our guest from last week, Andrew, and myself managed to go over on picks.
All right. My weather results say it's going to feel like only 73 degrees with.
Okay.
That seems a little low.
That's not bad.
That I would guess like in the 80. But for our performances, I will give an award. But last week you might have noticed that there was not a chicken award. That is because I lost my chicken award, and it turned out to be in the corner of in my room under my shades, my curtain behind a box. So that's why I couldn't find it. So I get the chicken award for losing my chicken for last week. So I'm going to squeeze it. And this week Ethan, Morgan, and myself get the chicken award for failing to get a singular pick point from Vegas.
Yeah, that was impressive. None of our drivers finished on the podium at all. No points. So yeah, I'm trying to see. I think I don't even think that Qatar was raced in a different. 2021 was in November. I don't believe they raced there in 2022.
Yeah, they skipped a year.
2023 was in October, and then this is going to be end of November again. So it's been super hot there in the past. Not sure exactly why it's not going to be this time around, which could shake things up for sure. But yeah, getting into the pick points, since it was a tie, 350 points for me, 337 for Andrew, and 268 for the guests. Still, we have, of course, Formula 1. We also have the Formula 1 Sprint, and then Formula 2 is back after a hiatus of 500,000 race weeks.
Yeah, because they don't travel over an ocean.
Yeah. So, I guess I'm going to catch you up on F2 just super quick before we get into things. Guillermo Bortoleto leading the series 169.5 points ahead of Isaac Hadjar. who has 165 points in second. Third place, Zane Maloney no longer is racing in the series.
It might be he's going to race this week and maybe not in Abu Dhabi.
Okay.
Wikipedia kind of said wasn't clear.
Okay, so the championship battle is very much alive in Formula 2 between Gabriel Bortoleto and Isaac Hadjar. The last 4 races, last 2 rounds in Monza and Baku, Isaac Hadjar has failed to score a point. Gabriel Bortoleto hasn't had light the world on fire results in that time, but he's finished 8th in the sprint, 1st in a feature race, 5th in a sprint, and 4th in a feature race. So he's taken the lead of the championship from Hadjar in the last 2 rounds. We'll see if Hadjar is able to bounce back or if Bortoleto will pull away. So there should be no surprise then to see Andrew pick Gabriel Bortoleto to win the F2 sprint. And our guest for this week, Rome Cady of the Starting Grid podcast, go check him out. He also picks Gabriel Bortoleto. I'm taking Victor Martins to win the sprint. Mr. Martins is down in 8th, but he's a solid driver, and I think that he will do well. I mean, he's done well. He's finished 2nd in a couple of sprints this year. Maybe he can get a first. Formula 2 is very hard to predict.
Yeah. I'm gonna go with for my winner, Jack Crawford. Mm-hmm. Looking at the results, he's had some momentum. Not that momentum matters because it's been a million years, it feels like, since F2 last race.
The last time...
So I'm going to pick Mr. Crawford.
Last time that F2 raced, it was September.
Wow.
Yeah.
Skipped all of October.
And almost all of November, yeah.
As George Russell might say, crikey.
For the sprint race, you went with Max Verstappen. Solid pick. I don't love it, but
he likes winning sprints.
He likes winning sprints, so I can't hate on it. Oscar Piastri was very, very good at Qatar last year. I have him winning the sprint. And then Rome has Carlos Sainz. It's funny. I want to mention this. Last week, before we started recording, I said that you should have went with Carlos Sainz in your podium prediction, since that's your guy. That's the guy you back. Could have got you a point there. We'll see if how Rome fares, taking Carlos Sainz to win the sprint. For our podiums in the main race, you have Charles Leclerc winning, which I thought was, again, interesting, ahead of your second pick, or your second place finisher, Carlos Sainz, because, again, you're not backing your guy.
Well, Ferrari likes... Which driver? Which driver are they keeping, Ethan?
Leclerc, but Sainz finished ahead last race.
I think Ferrari's gonna... I think they're gonna have the best car in...
Okay. Just got feeling?
Where? Yeah,
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair.
And I think with the best car, they should have control, and they can put Carlos on the bad strategy, on the we are checking strategy, and Charles on the good one.
Okay. And then you have Oscar Piastri rounding out your podium.
Yeah, because he was very good last year. I'm like, oh, wow, this is an Oscar track. It was originally going to be Lando Norris, but no, it's going to be Oscar Piastri there instead.
I do have Lando Norris winning and Oscar Piastri finishing second. And the reason I have this is because this could be the track that gets Oscar right again. Not that it really matters because there's only one race in the season after this race, but it's kind of been glossed over that besides doing very well in the sprint in Brazil, Oscar has kind of been nowhere recently. I'm not sure why, but he's kind of been just kind of out of it. Mm-hmm. Kind of out of it recently. I'm trying to pull up the standings right now. Oscar's finished 5th, 8th, and 7th in the last 4 feature races, Grand Prix, and Lando hasn't been
setting the world
on fire, but he has a 4th, he has a 2nd, and he has 2 6ths, and even when he's, a 6th versus a 7th, I'm not gonna like on the surface that doesn't seem like too much, but like in Vegas, Piastri was fighting off Nico Hülkenberg and Lando was fighting to climb up the grid. He didn't end up getting anywhere, but like it's been a bit of a weird spell for Piastri. I'm not trying to hate on him or anything. Like, I still think he's an amazing, super talented driver, and I think he will get right at Qatar. If I didn't, I wouldn't have him finishing 2nd. But this hasn't been peak Oscar Piastri, so that's why I don't have him winning. And then I have Lewis Hamilton finishing 3rd. I don't know. I think Mercedes built this car for Qatar. It's doing well in Vegas. I don't know exactly how to feel about it. But I'm throwing Lewis Hamilton on there because of that. And then Rome. Rome has Max Verstappen, Oscar Piastri, and George Russell. And he didn't need to do this, but he sent me a bold take as well.
Oh, okay.
And I'm intrigued by this bold take. I think there's some recency bias here. But he says that Pierre Gasly will finish top 5. Now, I disagree. I think there's extreme recency bias here. But I like where his head's at. Gasly's been quick at times, I guess, because like he qualified 3rd, but that was, I think, more so because of the track ramping up than anything else. He finished on the podium in Brazil, but again, that was circumstance. If you want to go back to 2021 Qatar, he qualified 4th. At one point, he was running 2nd, and then due to a mix of strategy and maybe poor tire management,
or was he was at AlphaTauri at that point, right?
Yeah, he finished outside of the points in 11th. So he's had within races at Qatar, he's had stints where he's looked really good. So I still have to say no, just because the front end of the grid is so strong. There would need to be like a major wreck for Gasly to finish top 5, and Qatar to me doesn't seem like I wouldn't expect Qatar to be a race where we have a major wreck.
Lance Stroll can go bowling again.
Maybe a dust storm flies up.
A haboob.
We are in Arizona, so we love that word here.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's his bold prediction. Do you have a bold prediction, Andrew? Since we have some extra time, we're already going into that extra time, but since we have some extra time, do you have a bold prediction?
Not really, no. No. I will say I didn't like the Mercedes because they're good at the cold tracks. And I know one thing about Qatar is that it's hot, not cold.
Yeah. Well, that's why they did the...
We'll see. And the car was good at the cold track, so
yeah,
we'll see. Anyway, moving into the bonus time, even though we're in the bonus time already.
Let's go for what, 10 minutes?
Oh, we're going to go, hopefully get this all within 10 minutes. IndyCar silly season, we're going to hit NASCAR silly season, and the one F1 seat left. Ray Hollerman Lanigan 30 car, the 2 Dale Coyne cars 18 and 51, and the second Juncos car. Who is going to get those seats starting off in the IndyCar world? Would you like to go first, Ethan, or
I'll let you go first.
I think Rocket Renas, he's going to land at Dale Coyne Racing in the 18.
Okay.
I think that's the biggest free agent, and I think that's where he's going to go. I think he should be in a better seat, but no. I think in the 30 car, I don't know. I'm trying to think. Devlin DeFrancesco. He was linked to Juncos Racing. I could see him going to the 30 car. I don't, but that's not a prediction. He's going to go to another team that needs funding, Dale Coyne Racing. That's their lineup's going to be, I think.
Okay.
Granted, they could have a bunch of rotating drivers. In that second Juncos car, now with the funding, they go get their guy, Roman Grosjean.
Yeah, I think that's, for me, that is the one move I can say with like 95% certainty.
Yeah. And then finally, the 30 car, it's going to be the favorite, I think, Yuri Vips. So Connor Daly and guys like Connor Daly, they're going to be without a seat. Teo Porcher without a seat. Linus Lundqvist without a seat. Hunter McElroy without a seat. Toby Sowery without a seat.
Mm-hmm.
All guys that should have seats.
I think, yeah, I agreed with the Grosjean. I'm gonna agree with, yeah, I think Rinus VK ends up at RLL.
I said Coyne.
Okay, then I'm disagreeing with you. I mean, it could be Coyne. I don't know. I'm gonna say Rinus VK to be a contrarian.
Mm-hmm. And who's gonna be in the 2 Coyne cars?
Well,
Go with Jack Harvey.
I think Linus Lundqvist needs a seat.
Yeah.
He's too good to not have a seat. Therefore, he's going to get a seat.
I like your thinking, but that's what I'd like to see. But who else is going to get that second Dale Coyne seat? You can go with a rotating group of drivers if you want.
We'll say a rotating group of drivers.
Name a couple possibilities.
Toby Sowery, like you said. I want to see, I'm in this hypothetical seat that I am now controlling.
Mm-hmm.
Logan Sargent's getting a couple of races. And then, if you got money,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Fair enough.
Who's gonna be in that Andretti Indy 500 car?
Marco Andretti.
Okay.
We already knew that. I'm pretty
okay.
sure. Anyway, moving over to NASCAR, we have 2 unconfirmed drives. The 3rd FRM car, which may or may not be full-time, hopefully is full-time, and the 51 Rick Ware car. 51 Rick Ware car, they seem to leak their own announcement on NASCAR.com saying Corey LaJoie was going to be on it. And the 3rd FRM car, it's been rumored to be Zane Smith. I hope it's Zane Smith. I don't know who else they would go with. So Zane Smith, I hope.
Sure.
See, he at the beginning of the year, he was terrible, but it's first year. Give him some slack. But he then, at Nashville, turned his season around, had a solid summer and fall.
Okay, I'm going to agree with you.
Okay. And who's going to get the RB seat?
It's going to be Liam Lawson. I don't know when they're going to announce it. I don't see why it wouldn't be Liam Lawson.
Yeah, I agree.
It could be Isaac Hadjar, but Liam's done a good job.
I agree.
He's done what I would expect.
Mm-hmm. Do you have anything to say before we end this episode, Ethan?
I'm tired.
I am too. We will see you all next week. That is episode 47. That is Ethan Ignatowski. I'm Andrew Hazlett. We'll be back for more next week on the Loose Wheel Show. We're going to leave you with a great song from the hit movie Cars, Our Town by James Taylor. Good night, everyone.
To me, it looked like he actually lost the wheel. The wheel for Ross Chastain is still and perfect.
Wheel on the track.
Did you leave the wheel loose?
You picked the fine time to leave me loose, wheel.